Great news! It seems like the Venom game is still in development and Wolverine is coming. Really, it's really coming. We go over to Insider Gaming. They got the report from Multiplayer First. They got sources, but I wanted to go over here. It seems that Marvel Wolverine is targeting a 2026 release window. Of course, also here on the channel, I already covered the rumor that it will show up at the State of Play. Basically, a trailer for the game. Finally, after 5 years, or 4 years, it was like 2021, right? September 2021, when Wolverine was announced. Yeah, we get a new trailer, and maybe by the time you watch this, probably they will wait a bit, but just before Tokyo Game Show, Sony is seemingly doing a State of Play like they do every year, and at the end of every State of Play, they have a big PlayStation Studio reveal or announcement, and it seems like Wolverine is gonna take that spot this time, or they might save the trailer for Game Awards. At least, we will likely see the game this year. Yote last year was also revealed during the September State of Play, and then launched also a year later. So I'm putting my money on Wolverine being at the State of Play, and I'm very excited for that. But there is more. Marvel's Venom development status and story details reportedly revealed. I don't want to go over the story details because that's kind of spoilery. So I'm just going to talk about the game and what we kind of know from it. Okay, the same source that provided information on Marvel's Wolverine stated that Venom's development is ongoing. No information was revealed about the latter's release window or development project, but basically it's still coming, and that is interesting because we had kind of multiple things regarding it. So here they also have like a different source providing story details, but they were not able to confirm it. So again, don't want to go over them. Also, that could just be guesswork. The actual source that they really trust, that's why they're reporting on this news, only confirmed Wolverine 2026 right now. Venom is still happening. So basically, we of course had a big Insomniac hack and leak in 2023, and then this was the roadmap that was kind of revealed. Venom for 2025, Wolverine 2026, Marvel Spider-Man 3 2028, a new Ratchet & Clank in 2029, and then X-Men would be their next big Marvel project. Now, it does seem that many things have changed. As part of the leak, was also, and we actually have voice lines for that, if we go from the Reddit leaks to this Reddit, there was supposed to be a Beetle boss in Spider-Man 2. We actually saw in the game files at one point there was an update. Maybe you remember this, and then they added some dev menus to the game, and they could also go to side stories or something like that, and they also saw a Beetle boss fight, and then could see the whole quest. They basically wanted to, instead of doing the DLCs like The City Never Sleeps for the first Spider-Man, they wanted to do free content drops for Spider-Man 2, one being focused on the Beetle, the second being focused on Carnage, and one being focused on the Spider-Verse. But then at one point, Insomniac was like, that's not going to happen anymore. We're not going to do DLC. That's when they announced the PC version. They basically said no DLC. So then we were wondering, okay, what else from this lineup is still real, right? What else can we expect then? Well, it seems that Wolverine is still on track for 2026, but Venom 2025. And that is actually not really that crazy, because there was also, as part of the leak, if we once again go over here to this Reddit, there was at one point this slide where we also see Venom here in 2027. So basically after Wolverine as well, and then Spider-Man 3. And that seems to be the current plan. So when we got like all this information from this leak, the timeline was kind of off. And obviously, again, the Spider-Man 2 DLC got cancelled after we learned about it. Of course, we were never supposed to learn about it, but yeah, it got cancelled. Many things have moved around, but I think it's cool to know that we still are getting a Miles Morales type game, but for Venom. What we also learned is that only 10% of Venom's dialogue or recorded dialogue was in Spider-Man 2. So they seemingly have a lot that they were already thinking of. Like, one of the things, I'm like sometimes like lucky enough to go to a game development studio or something like that and get to interview the developers. And one of the big things you learn is that things are already planned way in advance. So sometimes when a developer is like, when they are about to launch a game and someone interviews them and asks, so what are you guys gonna do next? Or yeah, are you guys thinking about doing this game next? They're always like, oh, we're not thinking about that right now, we're finishing up this one first. Oh no, they already had meetings a half a year before the game was out to know, of course, what they're going to do. Like at one point you have concept artists or something like that are just, they're not gonna sit around and wait until you launch the game before they move to the next project. No, they have to be on the next thing before the other thing is out. So I really think that they always had the idea to do a Venom game. But yeah, the timeline is interesting. It seems to be that they might repeat what they did with Miles Morales. Because, as you might know, PlayStation 6 rumored for late 2027. And I know, I think it's kind of crazy as well. But what we learned about the PlayStation 6 is basically that Sony has found a way to make the console like cheaper for them to make, still more powerful, and they're also looking for a way to get more people from the PlayStation 4 onto the next generation, because the PS4 is holding a lot of games back. Call of Duty, like FIFA, all those games, and a lot of live service games, many games like Genshin Impact, they're finally dropping PS4 support next year. Crazy to think about that they all this time were still supporting this 2013 console. So it really seems that I think like developers are asking Sony, yo, find a way to get those people to upgrade so we can make content and don't have to worry about the very slow hard drive, but can have everyone playing on console on this fast SSD, for example. And that seems to be why I think a late 2027. I mean, for one, every generation has lasted 7 years, or like that's the longest we had. And I think that even if the PlayStation 6 comes, the PS5 will be supported, I think longer even than the PS4, because it seems that Sony also has a PlayStation 6 handheld that will be more like focused on the PS5 hardware. Still probably be able to run the PlayStation 6 games, but at like very low settings, 30 FPS, etc. But yeah, I do think PS5 and PS5 Pro will be supported for a long time, even with the PS6 release. But the PS6, it seems that when the PlayStation 6 is out, Sony has no reason to make a PS5 anymore, because the PS5 might be, like, it's still crazy that system is $50 more expensive, €50 more expensive than at launch. Then you also calculate inflation, like the PS5 at launch was way cheaper than it is now. So if Sony can release, like they seemingly are also making a way easier form factor, so they can fit probably way more boxes into a into a ship or whatever, how they use it, or whatever they use to get it to as many stores as possible. So if Sony can make a better hardware, of course the technology has advanced, they can make it cheaper, like use maybe like things that are cheaper to manufacture, and also make a design that is way easier to ship, it's lighter weight, etc. It's in their best interest to phase the PS5 out. Okay, the PS6 is now what's there. Don't worry, we're still supporting the PS5 as well with a lot of games. You just cannot buy one anymore. And then I think Venom, like that, Miles Morales was a huge launch game for them. Having Venom, I mean, it's totally going to be on PS5 then as well, but having it also on PS6, I think makes sense. And I also think Miles Morales was a 1.5 game. Like, you felt it from by playing it. But because it had the bells and whistles from PS5, it had the DualSense features, it had like the better graphics and stuff, it still kind of felt like more than it actually was. So maybe with Venom they're looking at that as well. They're like, okay, it's gonna be Spider-Man 2.5, but we have some PS6 bells and whistles, I don't know, AI upscaling or whatever they're gonna do, and that's why it will still feel more like a new game. And then after that, of course, go into Spider-Man 3, which will hopefully be a PS6 exclusive, but that will then be coming way later. So we actually had some information about Venom as well, titled Venom Lethal Protector. Again, these things can totally change. This was from the leak like a long time ago. Miles and Peter will also be playable alongside Venom. Its story will continue after Spider-Man 2, will lead into Spider-Man 3. Carnage is the main villain, set for 2025. Again, that was the rumor, but 2027 was also found in sheets, so it's also still possible, and a $50 price tag, although maybe it's gonna be $60 now if they're gonna raise the price again. But I think that's exciting. Like for me, Spider-Man 2, my biggest critique for that game was, next to the kind of rushed Venom arc near the end, I did not like some of the choices they made. Another part was, I don't want side content that is not finished. They were like Carnage. I really thought that they were building up to it. It was so awesome, and then like you were calling, and then it was said, yeah, oh no, we have to like do some research. Might take a year or something. I'm like, what? Okay, we're not gonna finish this side story, and yeah, that game came out in 2022, or right, or 2023 is when that game came out. So then we will finally finish that side story with Carnage 5 years later or 4 years later. That's crazy to me. So yeah, I hope they with Venom make sure that all the loose ends are covered, and then Spider-Man 3 we start fresh. Of course, have one tease or something, kind of like Spider-Man 1. I thought the Spider-Man 1 tease for Miles Morales was awesome, but not something where I was like, oh, feel like this should have ended in this game instead of having to wait for the next one. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I think it's exciting that Venom is still happening, because I think they need to take all the time in the world to make Spider-Man 3 as big as, like, I thought Spider-Man 2 was still really, really great, but it also, yeah, I do think Spider-Man 1 had more of the special sauce, if that makes sense. And I really hope that they go all out with Spider-Man 3. And that's probably the final game they're gonna do, at least for the foreseeable future, the final Spider-Man game they will do, after which they're seemingly moving to X-Men. So we will see. It's gonna be very interesting. But yeah, it seems like Insomniac will end this PS5 generation with a bang, with Wolverine next year, and then Spider-Man or Venom in 2027. And then, if I had to guess, Spider-Man 3, 2029, 2030. I think that makes sense. And take the time, make it as good as possible, and I'll be there. Let me know what you think, of course, in the comments down below, and subscribe for more reactions like this.